Oh, hey guys, how are you doing? So today I thought I would try something a little bit different and look at a Facebook post, why not? So here we have someone posting about the price of baby formula going up 25%. Baby formula makers face investigation over historically high prices, etc. That's not what we're going to be talking about here. So I'm going to look at one particular thread here. So I mentioned that breastfeeding has been shown to increase the health and intelligence of babies by about 3 points. And obviously not everybody can breastfeed. Some people are incapable of doing it, and there might be other reasons why someone can't. So, you know, baby formula obviously is important and plays a role. But nevertheless, breast milk seems to be the best for babies' development. And then I started chatting with this lovely person called Kay, and she said exactly, formula manufacturers are allowed to promote this product aggressively. And yeah, I said, it's heavily processed and promoted in places like India. The sad thing is more babies survive when breastfed, so this is actually killing babies, which is factually true, because if you have a weakened immune system, then, you know, you're less likely to survive. And then she says, well, that's capitalism for you. Now, before we start, obviously don't contact Kay, you know, don't talk to her, or anything else. She seems like a nice person. So yeah, just honestly, I'm just, you know, kind of using her here for the conversation. But still, I said, well, yes and no. Capitalism thrives when people are allowed to make informed choices. So the best choices win. And this is absolutely true. You know, you might go to a supermarket and there'll be a lot of different choices to choose from. But more than that, you have a choice over what kind of companies you want to support, where you want to put your money. It gives the consumer a lot of power. And okay, they might not always make the right decision, or, you know, whatever, but that's just, you know, kind of a market operating. So if there is a company that's, you know, bad, and we have a decent, actually functioning capitalist society, we could just put our money somewhere else. Doesn't always work like that, because there are so many monopolies, but still, having a monopoly over truth smacks of socialism. Now, what I meant here is that in nearly every socialist country, especially the more authoritarian ones, they have state control of the media. And we have this in the UK. We have the BBC, who are meant to be independent, but they really aren't. They've never really been that independent. And anytime they say something that annoys politicians turn around and go, well, what about that license fee then? You know? You end up with a situation where the BBC and the civil service kind of have a homogenized view of the world, and that's basically it. You can't really do anything about it. You're stuck with it. It is difficult though, I agree, countering powerful moneyed interests, because obviously a lot of the people pushing baby formula in India, for example, and other countries are extremely powerful, and they were telling mothers who maybe didn't know that, you know, this formula was going to be better for the baby, when truth is that's very, very, very rarely the case. Still, informed choice is not part of capitalism, she says. Choice is good, but there is a whole industry devoted to obscuring the truth about products and encouraging people to choose products that are overly expensive, unhealthy, and unnecessary. Marketing is very much part of capitalism. Now, she does actually kind of have a point here, because part of marketing is changing human behavior. That's capitalism 101. You change the person's behavior, you make them choose a different product, a different idea, whatever it happens to be, and if you market to millions of people, you have a pretty significant impact, basically. Although I do wonder, because an awful lot of adverts don't do anything, because people are so advert blind nowadays, they barely even register these adverts. Quite deliberately, I think. I think it's almost like an evolved response. Still, I said yeah. But the core part of capitalism is choice. And this is true. So, if you are interested, socialism is a system, and I should point out, communism, in a nutshell, where in a socialist society, half your income goes to the government, who are the elite, the powerful, and I would say under communism 100% of your income goes to the government, and this is what they call a sort of moneyless paradise, except it isn't moneyless because the government effectively monopolize all the value. Capitalism is quite the opposite. It's the idea that power shouldn't be centralized in the hands of a government, but it should be dispersed throughout the people, who will keep most or even all of their money. They won't have to pay taxes. Companies would flood to low tax countries, and I will prove this absolutely later using data. And yeah, generally speaking, capitalism is good. Free trade is good. The more of we have of this, the richer everyone becomes. But unfortunately, the UK and the United States, I would say, has gone down the opposite path. Government has grown massive. They've gained incredible amounts of debt for some reason. They don't offer value for money. And, you know, we're basically turning people into slaves to pay for debts that, you know, supposedly helped previous generations. But really, the fault is that governments are too big and they try to do too much, you know? Part of that is probably democracy, because people will vote for whoever gives them the most goodies, but there we go. Having a monopoly over truth smacks of socialism, and this person, Lisa, laughs. But socialism is a good word, and we like it because it's about sharing and stuff. So we like it. Yeah, it's not. It's an economic system, and it isn't great, honestly. Like, even the sort of Scandinavian countries that do reasonably well, you know, they mess up and a lot of their money goes. And to be honest, a lot of countries like Norway and whatnot have a lot of oil revenue coming in, and they don't have a big population. So that means they are rich, okay? Economics 101. You have technology plus energy divided by the number of people gives you the wealth of the country. If you have more people in the country, then you actually have less wealth because it gets shared out more evenly. So no, economic growth isn't always, or I should say population growth isn't always good. Sometimes it can hurt. Although I would say that there are people who do contribute, who do kind of benefit the country. Migrants typically do benefit the country, but again, it's all a question of numbers, because the UK has seen, what, up to 1 million people a year, well, 1.2 million coming into the country and about 400,000 leaving, I believe. So we've got about 800,000 people coming in last year. And, you know, I think every single one of them is welcome. But at the same time, we have limited resources. We have limited schools and hospitals and all the other services. And what the government have done, which annoys me, is they've brought in a whole ton of people, but they haven't provided the housing, they haven't provided the services, they haven't provided the stuff that people actually need to live. So the people coming in, right, many of them are my friends, many of them who I know really, really well, are actually suffering because they don't have a place to live and they can't afford the rents. And they can't even afford to live in the UK anymore. Even, you know, people born in the UK can't afford their own house. They can't afford a place to live. They can't even afford to have kids. You know, we talk about a population crisis, and the reason is very obvious. A lot of people actually want a place to live before they have kids, right? It shouldn't be like a massive demand. But if you're, I don't know, a woman and you're still living with your parents, or even a guy living with your parents, for example, it's very, very hard to have a kid in that situation. Some people do, and, you know, they struggle with it, but okay, that's my rant over. Anyway, let's get back to the Facebook post, because I get so frustrated about this, because the government have basically messed us up in every single way possible. They had Brexit, which was taking back control, and what did they do with all that control? Well, they sat on their hands and they didn't do anything. And they had a previous Prime Minister, Elizabeth Truss, who was Prime Minister for like a week, basically said, oh, let's lower the tax rate because that'll be good. and they kicked her out. Who kicked her out? Well, the Bank of England and the elite and the powerful people, because they said, no, we like a high tax rate. We don't want to be competitive with other countries. We don't want to be economically powerful. Why would we want all this economic growth? We like our high taxes. So they kicked her out. And that sent a message to every single politician. If you step out of line, we are going to come and kick you out of your job, because there are people in this country who do not want us to be successful, probably hate us, to be fair. They don't want the UK to be competitive like Ireland or other high, low tax countries. They want us to be stagnant, and they want us to be basically suffering. I don't know why. I don't know why they want us to suffer, but they do, because if you look at our economic growth, it's been in the absolute toilet. And again, this is because probably people don't want England to be successful. And I mean that, like, technically, the EU don't want us to be successful, because otherwise other people will sort of say, well, we don't need the EU. Why do we need these bunch of oligarchs ruling over us? Which is a very, very good question, if you ask me. A lot of rich people, I should imagine, want to punish us for some reason. Maybe because they're teaching social justice in the universities, which talk about colonialism and all this other wicked stuff that we need to be eternally punished for, apparently. So yeah, okay, let's have a look. We have you never seen breakfast cereal, sugary drinks, energy bars? They're marketed as healthy, but capitalism, blah, blah, blah. They're not actually healthy. Capitalism says they are. Yeah, I mean, even the sort of protein craze. Most people don't need more protein in their diet. They need more fiber in their diet, but fiber isn't like a fancy thing, so instead they market protein. You get plenty of protein from like a glass of milk, by the way. You don't need to buy these weird milkshakes. In many places, there is only unhealthy food. When we go on to talk about like America and childhood obesity and stuff, and yeah, it is pretty disgusting, to be honest, because most people, if given a choice, will eat unhealthy food because it's cheap and convenient and cheap and it's fashionable, and they advertise it like crazy. Whereas if you actually have to supply people with good quality food, there's not much profit in it. So yeah, I mean, of course they're advertising this food, and they add all kinds of chemicals that make it addictive to people. So that people become unbelievably fat, and it isn't even their fault, by the way. If someone becomes really fat and they're eating like a corporate diet, guess what? It's the freaking corporate diet, And I'm not blaming any individual here. I'm saying if the whole food industry kind of acts in one direction to, maximize money, and one of the things they do, which I know for a fact, is they'll get 100 burgers and they will time how long it takes to eat the burger, for example, and whichever burger gets eaten fastest is the burger they will use. You might say, well, why is that? Well, it's because people get full up after about 10 or 15 minutes of eating, so if they can shove more food in their face and eat it more quickly, then they're going to basically buy more of the product. Which is kind of sad but true. Anyway, I'm coming back here on this thing that this person said, oh, socialism is so funny. I'm glad you find socialist state-owned monopolies over media so amusing and very funny, right? Haha. In China, I can't even talk about China. Oh, North Korea. Honestly, if you don't know what's going on in China, I suggest you look it up, but I'm not going to talk about it here. Oh, it's another freaking topic. But let's just say I'm not going to be moving to China anytime soon, and I don't recommend you do it either, because, oh my god. Well, we're not welcome anyway. I agree that unhealthy foods are profitable, heavily advertised, what I've just said, basically. Capitalism, yeah, the ability to trade freely between people and decentralizing power is the reason why there is so much ultra-processed food in the United States. Yeah, people are probably profiting from it, but you know who are subsidizing the production of corn to turn into corn syrup? Oh yeah, that'd be the American government. They actually subsidize the production of ultra-processed food, and I think there's a massive tax on sugar at the same time. So you get corn syrup, which is chemically proven to make people obese. Let me just show you a picture. Oh, look at this rat. This one on the left here, fed on corn syrup. He, you know, must have very, very poor choices in life. It must be the rat's fault. He must have some kind of moral failing, right? The fact that the rat is so fat? No. Okay, maybe I take it back. Maybe I was wrong about the... oh, what happened to the screen? What happened to the screen? Wrong about the fat rat thing, actually. There we go. You like my flowers, by the way? Okay, yeah. I gotta calm down anyway. So, I just looked into it, and apparently, feeding the rats high sugar diet also caused the same issues. So, okay, never mind about the corn syrup, but still, you can put, you know, high fructose corn syrup as a sort of additive into a lot of foods, and, you know, it's very cheap, and the body kind of turns it into fat because corn syrup basically mostly gets processed by the liver, and the liver stores food as fat. So you know, it's not good to eat loads of corn syrup anyway. So let's move on. Think about it. The government do not make any profit from ultra processed foods, so the government are wonderful. Think about crisps and additives. Yeah. So then I make a point here that I don't like the fact that the British government are taxing sugary drinks whilst promoting drinks that aren't sugary but are basically sugar substitutes, because the sugar substitutes have no effect on weight whatsoever. If you're still drinking the sugar substitute drinks, you don't lose any weight, and they can cause all kinds of horrible issues. So here we go. The National Institute of Health says artificial sweeteners, which are found in these horrible drinks, which I don't even drink, cause weight gain, brain tumors, bladder cancer, many other health risks. We can also add in high risk of stroke, heart disease, and death overall. Don't drink artificial sweeteners, please. They're just freaking horrible things. Yeah, just don't do it, man. I hate them. And the fact that our British government were promoting them in schools and whatnot, and, you know, putting a tax on sugary drinks like orange juice, it's just kind of disgusting to me, but there we go. Now, look, here's what I figure about sugary drinks, right? You have a sugary drink. Now, it is not a good thing to have, but it gives you a big sugar rush. It causes damage to your body. It probably gets stored as fat and whatnot, but at least the body recognizes what the heck sugar is, right? If you have all kinds of weird artificial sweeteners, modified methanol products, whatever the heck it is, the body doesn't actually recognize that from a sort of traditional evolutionary standpoint. And I might be talking like I might be saying like a load of woo, and it might sound ridiculous, but there is actually a reason why we have tongues that taste lots of different things, you know, like sweeteners and whatnot. It's because, you know, our bodies have evolved over millennia to basically be able to eat and process and, you know, digest different kinds of food. So now we've got all these artificial things which we would never eat in nature, and we're kind of eating it all year round. And I think Americans drink more calories than they actually eat as well, which is horrifying. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of sugary drinks. In case you're wondering, I typically drink tea and coffee and water and milk, and that's basically it. So same thing as I said previously, there's stroke and heart disease and death if you take a lot of these artificial sweeteners. Yucky, horrible things. I hate them. Also cause gastrointestinal problems. All the acid in them kind of fuzzes up in your stomach. It's just gross. I hate them. Anyway, I know some people love them, so yeah, you do you, but yeah, just know that they're not healthy. Yeah, so tax is the biggest expense we will ever pay in our life. We do not get value for money. We don't. Actually, it's disgusting how inefficient tax is. Half a person's lifetime income for what? Bins collected? Or a hospital bed when we're close to the end? the government are just an extension of the mafia, and we'd be so much better off without them, or a massively reduced government. And I really believe this, and I'm going to actually look at some data later in this rant. Oh, look, but my roads and the schools, yeah, because there's no way you could educate kids without having half your income taken over your entire lifetime, right? Honestly, in a sort of proper capitalist system, we would have loads of different types of schools, and parents would actually have a lot more choice about where they sent their kids. And if you just happen to be poor, which is unlikely, then I'm sure there will be all kinds of charities which will provide education and whatnot too. There will be solutions, but instead we've gone for a sort of state system, which is sort of loosely, according to Jordan Peterson, based on fascism, which, you know, basically teaches kids to be little drones. And they taught me to be a little drone. And there's no call for little drones out there. Little drones are basically almost unemployable, you know? They get the most menial jobs because nearly every job I've ever done needs to have a bit of independence. You know, a bit of independent thought. You need to act as an individual, not a drone. So these schools that teach you to go to the bathroom when the teacher tells you to, and to, you know, obey the rules of the classroom, and to go to the, you know, go out when the bell rings and come back when the bell rings, because the bell's simulating a sort of factory. Oh yeah, that's really useful. Like all those bells out there that tell me when I can go to the toilet, that's so useful. Thank you, teacher. Oh yeah, that's going to be useful in my life. In fact, I've never had someone ring a bell and say, Dave, you can go to the toilet now. Wow, thank you very much. No. We do it in schools though. It's a parody of humanity. Okay, well, the roads are horribly maintained anyway, and in the UK, I have this figure, probably out of date, but it costs about £3,000 a year to send a student to school for a year. Probably a lot more money now. Actually, it massively varies, I think, in America too, by state, so here we go. The average wage in the UK, oh, I think this is the mean average wage, so the most common, is £33,000 a year. I was just saying that people could well afford to send their kids to a school, especially if the mean average wage was 70,000 or 100,000, right? Because we were so much richer, because we didn't have all this tax, which is basically destroying our economy. And yeah, I do believe we're paying about 50% tax, every single one of us. You know? £15,000 a year in tax based on this 33% figure, 33,000 figure. Really wouldn't surprise me. I absolutely hate tax. It's the most disgusting thing. And I recognise, okay, maybe it's good to have a small government that can do some regulation and maybe take care of the criminal justice system. By the way, the criminal justice system is an absolute waste of money because it is unbelievably expensive. All these judges sitting around with their, you know, wigs and whatnot, you know, getting £100,000, whatever, for doing a case. Yeah, they've got their secretaries and stuff to pay, I know, but oh, it kind of drives me mad. You could provide like a Judge Judy style service for like a fraction of the price. You know, you can actually make quick, decisive decisions. It'd be so much easier, to be honest, especially if it was televised, right? I see no reason why it shouldn't be. I mean, for stuff like Judge Judy anyway, you know, small claims court, I mean, maybe the bigger cases like murder or whatever would have to be, you know, maybe held in secret. But then again, don't people have a right to know? Taxes are insane. 20% income tax, national insurance tax, which in the UK is a really weird little tax that nobody really notices, but that's a whole bunch more money off your paycheck. We got about 20% VAT on nearly every item, which isn't certain food items. So again, 20% income tax and 20% VAT add up to about 36% into all of your income going right here. Obviously, the income tax bracket, in the UK, we get a bit of an allowance of about 16,000 before we start paying the 20% tax. And then as you earn more, the 20% tax quickly increases. Which is kind of good if you're really, really poor. because you get a little bit of benefit. You know, you get basically enough money to sort of, you know, not go and burn down the government, basically. Okay, so yeah, we're giving half our money to the horrible government, who go and they murder people with it, don't they? War in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, in the UK, for example. A lot of governments all around the world just spend a fortune on just killing people, on weapons, on giving money to big corporations. We're basically a fascist country at this point, and I think most countries in the West are, because we have a lot of corporations who work very, very, very closely with the government. Interesting, this war in Ukraine right now, how apparently America and our former Prime Minister Boris Johnson went and told Zelensky that, hey, why don't you have a war? We'll back you up. We'll give you all these weapons, and, you know, of course we'll have to replace all the weapons with new weapons, which we're going to buy from the big companies. Yeah, that's no vested interest there. But anyway. You don't want taxes paying for public schools, because public schools are so freaking good. I already covered how useless they are. Oh, that's socialism. You don't want to pay for roads, because no one would have roads if you didn't have to give half your lifetime income to a bunch of crooks. Yeah. Free, what, 30,000 per student is a bargain. It's way more in America. Again, I've looked into this in America, and it really varies. Do you suggest, as an alternative to taxes, everyone pay for their own education? Yes, that'd be amazing. We could have loads and loads of choices about where we want our kids educated, what we want them educated in. You know, probably some people might not want their kids to get certain education. That's fine by me. We already have a system like that. We have so many religious schools and whatnot in the UK. Education for the rich only? Oh yeah. Right, because we're not going to have education, right? This is kind of like learned helplessness, you know? Oh, if the government didn't do it for us, we wouldn't have any education. No, mate, that's just learned helplessness, you know? You don't need someone else to do things for you. Oh, will we have to go to the landfill site every week to dispose of our own refuse? No. You just have private companies who go and pick your bins up, and they will probably be a lot better. And you can probably, you know, schedule extra appointments for picking up your rubbish if you wanted it. It would probably be a much better service, and it would be cheaper than paying massive amounts of council tax like we do in the UK. Well, that's another tax we have to pay. So when we start talking about compound interest, I said that we would be many times richer today if we went back to pre-World War II tax levels. By the way, a lot of this tax was introduced to help fund the war, of course, but the war ended and the taxes stayed high, so the government thought they'd introduce this NHS in the UK, which is like this thing we worship, and all the doctors, they go out and they dance, and it's amazing and it's awesome. And, okay, they do it in other countries too, but everyone loves the NHS. Well, I'm going to reveal to you later why the NHS kind of sucks. It's not because of the amazing doctors and nurses, you know, who work there, because they are amazing, but it's just bad management. Oh, my voice is going. Oh, I better wrap this up soon. Wouldn't it be great if rich people paid their fair share in taxes? Oh, no. No. Their fair share. What is that? It's whatever you say it is. Now, their fair share is 100%. Let's take all their money and then we'll do what with it? Pay off a few months debt interest? Oh wow, that'd be amazing. A few less debt interest for the system is not sustainable. So these say, well, there's no benefit here because people are poor. Oh, they're only poor because the government exists. Honestly. I pay very little tax, but guess what? I pay a lot of tax. Not because I earn much, it's because there's tax every freaking where. Again, I reiterate the single biggest cost is taxes that we have to pay for. Again, I make the point here, you could have much better services for a fraction of the price, and you also wouldn't kill hundreds of millions of people through, you know, governments basically throwing their weight around. Obviously, some governments are worse than others, but, you know, get rid of them all, why not? Tax for churches. Well, yeah, they already pay taxes indirectly. Ugh. Here we go. So we're getting to some of the meat and potatoes. Oh, but people don't pay high taxes in the UK. Yeah, we do. We do. We pay really high taxes in the UK. So 20% on income above the, what, 12, 14,000 threshold. 20% tax on everything we buy. It's 36%, as I already said. National insurance is a weird one, but basically you pay between 2 to 10%. On some of your money. So again, this is just another tax we like to take. Here's a list of all the taxes we have in the UK. Income tax, national insurance contributions, kind of covered as NI up here. Value added tax, VAT, another big one. Corporation tax, pretty high, much lower in other countries. You own a corporation in the UK, you need to pay all this money to the government. Capital gains tax, inheritance tax, stamp duty, you want to buy a property, sell a property, you need to pay stamp duty. Council tax, another massive one, this is basically to have your bins collected. Fuel duty, a massive freaking tax here. So you want to drive somewhere? Well, you got to pay loads of money to the government for some reason. Vehicle excise duty, car tax, alcohol and tobacco duties. Okay, packet of cigarettes in the UK for Golden Virginia, I think it's about 37 quid or something for a packet of 50 grams of tobacco. Alcohol is about, I don't know, 12 quid for a bottle of vodka or something, small bottle. So yeah, massive taxes on these things. In other countries, it's one heck of a lot cheaper, but yeah, if you like to have an occasional drink or you smoke, the government is going to rob you blind. Air passenger duty, insurance premium tax, environmental taxes, so climate change levy, landfill tax. ULEZ is a big one. So here, this is ULEZ in a nutshell. So every day we have to, if you live in London, evil, horrible man Sadiq Khan, who is the current mayor of London, decided that we have this ultra low emission zone. He decided to basically triple or quadruple the size of it, so it is absolutely massive. And if you have a car which produces too much pollution or whatever, you have to pay £12.50 a day to drive in London in the ULEZ zone. Now this is a real problem because a lot of people can't afford £50,000 or whatever to get a new car. And this basically means that people are becoming a lot poorer. Here, I don't know if you guys can see. So here's the ultra low emission zone. So in 2019 we had this ultra low emission zone introduced in central London, and then there was a ULEZ extension to inner London, and then there's basically a whole massive expansion of this to the surrounding area. Anyway, if you were to drive every day and you just happen to live in London and you don't have £50,000 for a stupid electric car, which, let's face it, are kind of junk, right? £12.50 a day. If you drove every single day, that's 364 days a year because they don't include Christmas. That is £4,500 a year, right? And that just goes to the London mayor who, I don't know, throws it, pays off his mates. I don't even know what they spend it on or anything, but it's absolutely disgusting in my opinion that people are being charged with this massive amount of tax. Again, just another freaking tax. Doesn't do anything. It's just robbing the people. Every single time they take money from us, it basically means that money can't go to help someone else, it can't go to an investment, it can't go to whatever, really. It's just theft. We also have stealth taxes. So Britain famously has a TV license now. You don't necessarily have to pay it. You can kind of register to not actually have a TV in your house. But still, a lot of people pay this darn thing, and it basically goes to fund the BBC. And basically the BBC are a bunch of weird, sort of woke, middle class clowns who basically get paid massive salaries for producing awful content. And even the good content that they used to have, like Doctor Who, is now basically unwatchable. It's absolutely trash, and all of their content is absolute trash. It's all incredibly woke, and whatever the latest thing is, you know, that's what they're always promoting. It's, again, kind of government propaganda, like I alluded to earlier. So, okay, we got the license fee, right? Congestion charges. Yeah, we've kind of gone over that, like with ULEZ in London. There's congestion charges in other parts of the country, prescription charges in England, although I think Scotland doesn't have them, overdraft fees and charges. So a lot of the banks in the UK will, if you go into debt, they'll charge you massive amounts of overdraft fees, and if you spend money in another country, they'll charge you obviously additional fees. We've also got a lot of parking fees and fines. So, for example, if you drive to the airport, you have to basically, in the UK, pay like a £5 fee just to park, and you need to pay that online. If you want to park anywhere, it costs a fortune a lot of the time. So, it's all this microtransactions, you know? There's gambling duties and levies. On the list, I don't think they actually had higher rate of tax on things like cigarettes and alcohol, but we've covered that previously. But yeah, these are just some of the taxes that we pay in the UK, and if you ask me, I think it's pretty disgusting, because what do we do with all this money? Well, the government have unbelievably high amounts of debt. We have debt which is approximately 100% of GDP, gross national product. So the debts are absolutely insane. So they're clearly spending tons of money on some junk. I'd rather they didn't even exist and we didn't spend all this money on junk, you know? And it's not like they're doing any benefit to us anyway, you know, spending all this dumb money on stuff. Our healthcare service is rated 30th in the world, I think. So it's not even like we've got this amazing healthcare service to show for all this money. So here's a little calculation, right? I am firmly of the opinion, if you have a lower tax rate, then you get more economic growth. Why is this? Because more people put money into the UK, more people are going to start businesses, more people are basically going to work harder because they earn a lot more money, and generally speaking, we're going to grow a lot faster. So I worked out from the end of the Second World War, if we had 3% higher growth because of low taxes, right, which is what we would have had if we had gone down to pre-World War II levels of tax, we would be 17 times richer today, okay? I mentioned this in a previous video, but 17 times richer is a lot, and that is just with 3% and compound interest, basically. I'd like to be 17 times richer. Now, it might not actually work out at 17 times, but just mathematically, 3% increase per year is absolutely phenomenal. Here's the math if you want to have a look over that. And again, I think government keep people poor, you know? You get someone living off the government, and a lot of people live off the government. A friend of mine, basically, he has kids and a wife, and the government pay for his house, and they give the whole family money to do stuff with, and sometimes, like, the government, especially the local council, will give you a car, for example, if you need one, and they'll sort of give you a lot of services and money and stuff. This isn't available to everyone, by the way. It's very, very selective. So yeah, the government are paying an absolute fortune out, and there's also a huge number of houses which are just going to people who just can't afford to even live in the UK, you know? It's kind of disgusting, but they've created a massive problem. Mass immigration. Like I said, I love a lot of the migrants who have come to the UK looking for a better life, or, you know, they want a bit of adventure, whatever. I think it's great. I love all of them that I've met, but we just don't have the facilities. You know, these people, my friend who came from Cyprus, she couldn't even find a place to live which was affordable. And, you know, that is the fault of the government. It really, really, really is. It's just, and I'll tell you why they do it, because the reason's actually kind of obvious. The rich and powerful people want house prices to be as high as possible, because that means the asset prices go up and they get more money because they own a lot of housing, right? So if you flood the country with loads and loads and loads of people, you push the price of houses up and you have a big party because you're so freaking rich now. So it's a good investment opportunity. Is it actually good for the people living in the country? Or the people who want a house? No, obviously. So Ireland famously had a lower corporation tax, and their taxes are generally more competitive than the UK. So if you are a company looking to set up in one of these countries, are you going to go to the UK? Or are you going to go to Ireland where you get a better tax rate? Well, looks like Ireland are doing so freaking good. This is GDP per capita, right? So the average Irish person is earning twice as much as the average British person at the moment. Why is that? Because we are emulating China. We basically said, look, China's a great country. We've got lots and lots and lots of people on low wages. Let's copy them. Let's get loads and loads of people in Britain on low wages. This is exactly what they've done. Like I say, they've imported a lot of people. They haven't provided the services. They have made a gamble. They say, hey, you know, you can come to the UK with your kids, but you won't be able to get them into a school. Or, you know, the school will be massively oversubscribed. And yeah, it's a year's waiting list for that NHS service, you know, whatever. That's what they've done to try to make money. It's not a good way of making money, because like I said earlier, the way you measure wealth in a country is the amount of energy and the amount of technology times the two together, and then divide it by the number of people. You add more people into the equation, everyone gets poorer. You increase the energy, like you become Saudi Arabia, well, you become rich. You increase the technology in the country, maybe you import people who are highly skilled, for example. Well, that actually boosts economic growth. But you import loads of people who have like a lower level of education, for example. Well, that just brings the whole thing down, because you're not getting any more technology. You've got more people who require NHS and school and all the other services as well. And, you know, good on them, you know. They should come if the UK welcomes them, which, you know, we do. Every single one of them is welcome. Oh, my God. So we can talk about the NHS. Well, isn't it the wonderful thing in the UK is the NHS? Yeah, well, look. Look at this. Ireland was rated the 13th best healthcare system. The UK is 30th on here. So, Ireland, not only are they like making twice as much money, they've got much better healthcare. Maybe we should copy Ireland. Heresy. Life expectancy in Ireland is also a year longer. And I just finished by comparing the government to one of these things down here. You see the video? They just suck up the blood, you know? They just take more and more and more. We could be 17 times richer today if we weren't so bled dry by people who just want to use us for short-term gain. Oh, dearie me. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Let's all move to Ireland, right? They're actually doing alright. They've got their own problems though. Like, they've got very little freedom in Ireland. You know, they're a bit puritanical and a bit crazy about a lot of things nowadays. But yeah, anyway, that's the video for you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.